We are officially in the first week of July, which means a few things for Major League Baseball. The nationally televised draft will take place from the 7th to the 9th. The Home Run Derby will be on the 10th, followed by the All-Star Game on the 11th. On top of that, rumors are beginning to swirl around the league's best players as the trade deadline is less than a month away. So there's a lot for fans to look forward to as the second half of the season approaches. But this month also represents one more thing, specifically for the teams who are underachieving. This is the month that can make or break an entire season. We all know every year there's that one team that gets off to a lackluster start in April, and it's met with people saying there's plenty of time, or it's a long season. But when the calendar reaches July, it's a huge wake-up call for these clubs, a reminder that they're running out of time and it will soon be too late. The biggest victims of this right now are the Mets and Padres. While the Mets are probably the bigger disappointment since they're currently 39 and 46 with the largest payroll in MLB history, I've already shared my opinion about Steve Cohen's poor spending habits in a past video, so now it's San Diego's turn. Before this season, many people were calling the Padres a super team while they were highly favored to win the World Series. Today, they have one of the worst records in the National League. They have a very slim chance at making the playoffs, let alone win the division, and all the moves they made these past few years to build this franchise up seems like it was all for nothing. We're going to break down this entire rebuild, explain why expectations were so high, and what went wrong. Before I start, please consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. It would mean a lot. Let's get straight to it. If we're being 100% real here, historically speaking, the Padres are one of Major League Baseball's worst franchises. They have the second worst winning percentage of all time, only behind the Miami Marlins. In their 53-year history, they've only made the playoffs 7 times. They've never won a World Series. They were the last franchise to throw a no-hitter, which just recently came in 2021. And their winningest manager, Bruce Bochy, still had a losing record with the team. So the fan base has been waiting around hoping for something good to happen for a while. Following their playoff elimination in 2006, the team failed to get back to the postseason for the next 13 years. While they weren't competitive for most of this time period, I think 2016 is a good place to start in this storyline. The team went 68 and 94 that season, tied with the Rays for the second worst record in the league. Perhaps the most notable thing to happen to this franchise in 2016 came via trade. In June of that year, starting pitcher James Shields was traded to the White Sox for 2 players, Eric Johnson and 17-year-old prospect Fernando Tatis Jr. Nobody at the time knew this would eventually go down as one of the most lopsided trades in MLB history, as the Padres landed a generational talent while only giving up a pitcher that would retire just 2 years later. But this was years before Nando made a name for himself, since he still had to go through the minor leagues. The team currently at the MLB level still had lots of work to do. In 2017, the rebuild was going as expected. The Padres had the youngest lineup and lowest payroll in the entire league, while fans hoped this list of notable young hitters would be the future of the franchise. They won 3 more games than the year prior and finished in 4th place. In 2018, some minor tweaks were made to the roster as the front office was trying to get this rebuild moving a bit faster. They signed veteran first baseman Eric Hosmer, prospect Franmil Reyes was called up, and they traded for infielder Freddie Galvis. The goal at this point was to develop the young players they already had, while acquiring veterans to help build the culture. The 2018 Padres were still not very good at 66 and 96, and their draft class that year was pretty much a dud. However, one bright spot was Fernando Tatis Jr. tearing up the minor leagues as he shot up to a top 10 MLB prospect. Following the 2018 season, Padres general manager AJ Preller felt like it was time for the franchise to make a big move to take the rebuild to the next level. They were pretty confident with the upcoming talent they had in the farm system, plus they had money to spend. The team lacked stars on the big league roster, and the losing had just been going on for too long. It was time for something different, something the Padres don't typically do. So in February 2019, they signed all-star infielder Manny Machado to a 10-year, $300 million contract, which at the time was the largest deal in the history of American sports. Baseball isn't a one-man sport, and they still needed way more than Machado to compete. But this deal was the Padres' way of showing the rest of the league that they weren't afraid to spend money, and they expect to be a dangerous team in the near future. On top of that, it was later announced that 20-year-old Fernando Tatis Jr., now the second best prospect in baseball, was going to make his MLB debut on opening day of 2019. Giving the fans multiple players to look forward to. Tatis had a nice rookie season where he finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting, and Machado had a great debut year in San Diego, while these were all the notable hitters from that season. Unfortunately, this core in the lineup didn't mean much, since their starting pitching wasn't anything too special. Though the club's record was similar to previous seasons at 70 and 92, The team was a few trades and/or signings away from their contention window opening. The front office knew this, so following the 2019 season, they made a trade sending Hunter Renfroe to the Rays, while they got Tommy Pham and Jay Cronenworth in return. San Diego also made 2 other trades, acquiring Jurickson Profar, Trent Grisham, and Zach Davies. All 5 players they got in these trades in the 2019 offseason played a big role in 2020. During the 60-game COVID year, the Padres' efforts to acquire talent the past 2 seasons were starting to pay off, as they finished 37-23, ending their 13-year playoff drought. They beat the St. Louis Cardinals in the wildcard round, but got swept by the Dodgers in the NLDS. The starting pitching showed solid improvement in 2020, while Tatis and Machado once again headlined the lineup. Following their elimination, the transactions kept on coming, as the Padres had one of the craziest offseasons we've seen in recent memory. Relievers Keone Kela and Mark Melancon were added on 1-year deals. Jurickson Profar re-signed for 3 more years. Ha-Sung Kim left the Korean baseball organization to sign a 4-year deal with San Diego. A trade with the Pirates sent starting pitcher and San Diego native Joe Musgrove to the Padres. They got former Cy Young winner Blake Snell in a trade with the Rays, 4-time All-Star Yu Darvish in a trade with the Cubs, and they locked up their young up-and-coming star Fernando Tatis Jr. to a massive record-breaking 14-year, $340 million deal. If it wasn't clear the Padres were trying to win in 2020, it was certainly made well known to the entire league that they were going for it all in 2021. The contention window wasn't just wide open, it was absolutely shattered. Many people thought this Padres team was built to do damage, as they were ranked number 2, only behind the defending World Series champion Dodgers in the 2021 opening day power rankings. However, as we know now, this was the tale of 2 teams for the Padres. In the first 82 games, San Diego was 49-33, only 2.5 games out of first place, with a comfortable 6.5 game lead in the NL wildcard. For whatever reason though, in the final 80 games, they completely fell apart, going 30-50 to end the year, finishing below 500 once again, and missing out on the wild card by 11 games. They certainly had the talent to get the job done, they just couldn't do it for whatever reason. Fans were extremely disappointed, as this season with high hopes at the beginning ended in complete disaster. Before the season even finished, manager Jace Tingler was fired. On the bright side though, the best was still yet to come. Jay Cronenworth had his first breakout year, making him an All-Star. Manny Machado had his first All-Star game appearance with his new team, along with Fernando Tatis Jr., who had a monster season that landed him top 3 in NL MVP voting. On the pitching side, Yu Darvish was the only All-Star starter after going 7-3 with a 2.65 ERA at the break, but completely choked the second half of the year, while closer Mark Melancon was selected as well. In 2022, they pretty much ran it back with the same roster, considering there weren't really that many holes that needed to be filled. The biggest change came when they hired 3-time Manager of the Year Bob Melvin to replace Jace Tingler. Once again, the Padres had some hype around them heading into the year. Tatis suffered an injury in the offseason and was expected to miss the first couple months. However, the team played great without him. At the trade deadline, they were 60-46, second in the division and once again comfortable in the wild card. However, the front office still felt more moves could be made. The day before the trade deadline, they stunned the league as they traded 4 players for 4-time All-Star and 3-time Reliever of the Year Josh Hader from the Brewers. Then the very next day, they landed 2-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, batting champion, and World Series champion 23-year-old Juan Soto from the Nationals, along with former All-Star Josh Bell, making their team absolutely stacked. Less than 2 weeks later, devastating news broke. Fernando Tatis Jr., who was almost fully recovered, would be suspended for the rest of the season after testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. This was absolutely heartbreaking news for Padres fans to hear, especially since they had a legit chance at making a World Series run for the first time in a long time. And now their homegrown star is out until 2023. They still had a strong finish to the year at 89-73, and they were set to take on the New York Mets in Queens during the wildcard round. While the 101-win Mets were favorites to win, the Padres pulled off the upset. They were now set to face the heavily favored 111-win division rival Dodgers in the NLDS. This was an incredible series that was tight every single game. It felt like San Diego had no chance to swoop into the postseason and beat this powerhouse World Series favorite, but that's exactly what they did, winning the series in 4 games, advancing to the NLCS where they play the Phillies. All the suffering that the fanbase endured for decades prior to this was all worth it after the series win against LA, but the job wasn't close to being finished. After another hard-fought series, the miracle run for San Diego had come to an end, as the Phillies won in 5 games. This was still considered a successful season for the Padres though. They bounced back after an embarrassing finish to 2021, made it way further than anyone expected them to, while they didn't even have one of their best players. Yet still, the front office was not satisfied, and they wanted to add even more. In the offseason, they signed four-time All-Star shortstop Xander Bogaerts to an 11-year, $280 million deal. Now the Padres were just showing off. They assembled a big four in the span of 4 years, making them one of the most dangerous lineups in the league. Heading into 2023, of course they once again had great odds to win it all, and these players believed they could do it, and they had every reason to. They are the definition of a loaded roster. These are some of the star players they acquired in this rebuilding period, more than enough to win a World Series, but for some reason in 2023, they have struggled mightily. They're currently only in 4th place in the division by a significant margin after struggling pretty much the whole year. Their longest winning streak at this point in the season is still just 3 games. They can't win consistently, but why? Well, the lineup that this franchise spent over $1 billion in total contract money to construct has not been producing as efficiently as it should be, as these are the ranks in all of Major League Baseball. I wouldn't say their core 4 is playing bad by any means, but maybe not as good as they were hyped up to be. Also, the role players, besides Ha-Seong Kim, have not been playing their roles. Jake Cronenworth has taken a massive step back from his former all-star self, and they've been getting little to no production offensively from the catcher position all year long. The pitching has actually been the brightest spot of this team, as they rank 7th in team ERA, and Josh Hader is putting together another reliever of the year type season in the bullpen. It almost seems like this lineup has the mentality of home run or bust. They lost the ability to hit for average and get guys on base. Everyone wants to be the hero and get all the glory instead of playing their part. Having all this talent in one place with a mix of players already known for their large egos isn't a good mix if you're trying to promote teamwork. To me, this is the reason why the Padres have failed in 2023. The roster doesn't need any more changing. The only thing that needs to be changed at this point is the players' mentality. If they can't figure out how to play together and bring winning baseball back to San Diego, not only will this season go down as another disappointment for fans, but this amazing roster that took years to construct might get deconstructed faster than we think. The Padres can no longer use the plenty of time left excuse. They need to start winning now, and if they don't, their rebuild will go down as one of the biggest failures fans have ever seen. But that wraps up this video. Let me know if you think the Padres will bounce back and make a run at the postseason. Thank you for watching, like the video, and please subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.